Professor Gabriel earned his PhD in history from Stony Brook University in New York. His research interests include the history of bondage, resistance, and freedom in the Black Atlantic, as well as interdisciplinary approaches to slavery within popular culture and media. He is currently a professor of history and faculty affiliate to the Africana Studies Institute here at the University of Connecticut. Alternatively, he writes speculative fiction under the pen name P. DeJelly Clark. He will be presenting today a paper under the provocative title "There Are Black People in the Future." So, Dexter, welcome.
Thank you, Santiago, for that introduction, and good morning, everyone, for everyone where it's still morning. Thank you, everyone, for putting this together. This has been a fascinating morning so far. I've heard quite a lot, taken down some notes, and so I'm hoping my presentation, a bit different perhaps than others, coming from a historian's background as well as a person who writes speculative fiction. I hope that people find it interesting. The name of my presentation being There Are Black People in the Future. In 2018, artist Alicia B. Wormsley emblazoned a simple 7-word phrase on a billboard atop a building in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, entitled "There Are Black People in the Future." Wormsley had originated the phrase 8 years previous in conversations on representation of racial minorities, and in specific Black people in popular science fiction. But as art, she intended it to speak to broader issues of race in the present and an affirmative assertion that any imagining of the future would include Black people. Those 7 words, however, did not go uncontested. After being on display for nearly a month, the billboard was removed by the property manager, citing it violated a lease agreement prohibiting, quote, distasteful, offensive, erotic, and political content. A firestorm ensued, and amid accusations of racism, the billboard went back up a few days later. The frustrated property manager put out a letter denying any racist intent, clarifying the billboard was taken down amid concerns by passerby who were, quote, confused by its context and content. Others recognized the phrase as a sly critique of gentrification, a flashpoint in the area. Imagining Black people in the future, it turned out, was a radical and perhaps dangerous concept. Alicia Wormsley, and this is Alicia Wormsley here, and this is the original billboard, and here is Alicia Wormsley. Alicia Wormsley responded to the controversy with a statement urging residents to find ways to work, as she put it, to work on methods to constructively investigate whatever discomfort those 7 words may have caused them. So today I want to briefly examine this notion of Black futurism and its resonance in different media, from literature to social media. In these examples can be found artists and everyday people defying oppressive forces in their lived realities by imagining a future where Black people do indeed exist. And so I'll start this off actually with a personal story. So this is a personal story about Star Wars. New York, 1977. George Lucas's Star Wars is premiering, and my mother was not going to let me see it. Why? Because it didn't have any Black people in it. What are they trying to say, my mother asked? That there are no Black people in the future? That we don't make it? I was young at the time. The more abstract and real-life contours of race and representation was too complex for me to grasp. Spaceships and aliens, however, I could deal with. So I replied to my mother with some crafty geek wisdom. But Star Wars is supposed to be set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. My mother wasn't having any of it. A long time ago, she asked? Then it definitely should have Black people. White people did not exist before Black people. I hadn't attended first grade yet, so I couldn't keep up with my mother going full evolutionary, but I gave it another try. It's in a whole other galaxy, I told her. My mother shook her head. No galaxy anywhere with white people and no black people. No way, no how. White people have to learn to stop this nonsense, making movies with only them, like they're the only people in the whole world forever. I didn't have a rebuttal. It was a fight I could not win. Not in the same year Alex Haley's Roots was coming out. It would take a long time before I really understood what troubled my mother so much about that first Star Wars movie. It was in many ways the same issue that caused Alicia Wormsley to put up that billboard. What does it mean for marginalized people who have experienced the collective psychic trauma of mass displacement, racial terror, and varying forms of both mass physical and social death to be disappeared almost completely from the future? For Black people to imagine themselves, therefore, in the future was itself inherently a radical act, an autonomous and declarative statement of existence and survivability against the odds. The popular term today often used is Afrofuturism. Writer Ytasha Womack defines it, and it has many definitions, often disputed, but I'll use this one because it's so broad, as an intersection of imagination, technology, the future, and liberation, in which Afrofuturists redefine culture and notions of Blackness for today and the future, bringing together elements of science fiction, historical fiction, speculative fiction, fantasy, Afrocentricity, and magical realism with non-Western beliefs. In this sense, Afrofuturism can be as diverse across media and art as Octavia Butler and Sun Ra, and encompass Black creatives from writers like George Schuyler to Janelle Monáe. And so with this in mind, I want to then talk about imagining Black people in the future. And out of this broad mix, I want to touch on 3 examples through 3 different mediums. So the first of these I'll talk about is Edward A. Johnson's work, Light Ahead for the Negro. In 1904, the Black educator and lawyer Edward A. Johnson wrote Light Ahead for the Negro. The novel follows a Black protagonist who suffers a mysterious accident that lands him 100 years in the future, in 2006 to be exact. There he finds a drastically transformed America where Black people have excelled and become members of society. Though it is not a perfect world, it is a vision of a utopia working to move beyond racial caste. To place Johnson's work in perspective, the early 1900s was an exceedingly violent and dangerous time for African Americans. 76 Black people were lynched in 1904 alone, the very same year the book came out. In the next 10 years, close to 900 Black men, women, and children would be lynched across the nation. Anti-Black race riots during this time engulfed cities like Atlanta, Georgia, and Springfield, Illinois, where white mobs killed Blacks by the score, destroying property and sending hundreds fleeing what were essentially racial pogroms. Johnson's Light Ahead for the Negro offered up an imagined future as an alternative to his day. His foreword, in fact, was an appeal, pointing out that 2 factions were striving to control the American South, one that would crush Blacks into a state of serfdom, and another more sympathetic to their plight. Johnson dedicates his book to this latter group, in a way offering white society a way out of the trauma of racism and hatred it had created, in some ways pulling it into the future. And so that's one. So going to jump ahead almost a century, actually past a century, like Edward A. Johnson, to a short film called The Robots of Brixton. So in 2011, British filmmaker and architect Kibwe Tavares released his short film Robots of Brixton. Some of you may have seen this before when it came out. The setting of the film is a future Brixton. And as the filmmaker describes it, the city here has degenerated, or at least the district of this district of London has degenerated into a disregarded area inhabited by London's new robot workforce. Robots built and designed to carry out all of the tasks which humans are no longer inclined to do. The film follows the trials and tribulations of these young robots living the predictable existence of a populace hemmed in by poverty, as he puts it, disillusionment, and mass unemployment. When police invade the one space, which the robots can call their own, the strained relationship between the two sides explodes into violence, echoing the 1981 Brixton riots. Tavares's film follows, as if you had watched it, you would have seen it follows more in tradition of Black fugitive works by Octavia Butler or Samuel Delaney, creating a landscape of urban decay, oppressive labor, and police repression. The most striking, perhaps, is the way the filmmaker substitutes these robots for people who both live and replicate the Black experience of Brixton. Basically, there's a reggae soundtrack playing, and the main robot protagonist in this, he has like an Afro hairstyle. His walk very much mimics this British Afro-West Indian gait, walks through the familiar geographies of present-day Black and brown Brixton. Right? In fact, it's superimposed one upon the other. And in the eventual clash with the police, what Tavares does is that he definitely superimposes scenes and footage from the Brixton riots to create this future conflict. There's a scene where the robot police are gathering against the rioters. And what you realize is that almost down to every minute detail, he superimposes the real photograph he took this from with the police in 1981 facing off against these Black Brixton rioters, these Black West Indians. So here, Blackness itself lives on in the inherited and recreated legacies of struggles against inequality. So for the last thing I want to look at, I'm going to take us to the waning days of far off 2020 and social media, specifically Twitter, and the phenomenon of the hashtag Negro Solstice, which you see here. So the idea had unexpected roots, and I will show you some of these roots here. Had unexpected roots in an anti-vaccination conspiracy theory. Black Twitter user here, this is her here, Lottie Dot, postulated that the government was using the upcoming COVID vaccine to change Black people's genetic codes. The tweet itself came several weeks before the astronomical Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn on the December 21st winter solstice, of which astrologers were also making their own claims. It didn't take long for Black Twitter to join these desperate threads. Using humor to rebut Lottie Dot's claims, users created this hashtag Negro Solstice, whereby on December 21st, the winter solstice, Black people would be granted superpowers. And so here, for instance, is someone responding to the original comment, and they say this will be all Black people after December 21st. And they use here an image from, for anyone familiar with Watchmen, the HBO adaptation or the comic book. This is the main figure here, Dr. Manhattan. Is a Black figure wearing African kente kufi, as well as an Afrocentric unk. Starting on December 5th, Negro Solstice tweets started appearing. By December 21st, the day of the reputed happening, Negro Solstice was the #1 trending topic on Twitter, involving memes, video, TikToks, and more. So just a quick sample from some of these tweets, right? So this was one of them, for instance, on December 6th. Black people after the December 21st update drop, where you see Black people with superpowers. Now, here were some by December 20th. They really ramped up as the day grew closer. Here is taking this, of course, from The Incredibles, Samuel Jackson's character. Here he says, "Have you found my Negro suit?" Another one. Basically, just on early in the morning of December 21st, to show you how many people were into this. Notice also the diasporic nature of who is doing this. We see here someone using this meme of who will have powers and not have powers, and using this racial dichotomy. Others postulated really pulling on our modern politics of what would it mean for Black people to enter the future with superpowers. And here a user uses the anti-mutant hatred from the Marvel X-Men comic books. And he basically says, this will be Fox News tomorrow. And anyone familiar with Fox News pretty much knows what he means. And some even postulated what they would do with these superpowers, basically using them to right past wrongs. And so we see someone here saying, picturing themselves as a superhero, in this case, the Marvel character Magneto, me taking back everything from the British Museum, right? Once they have their superpowers. And so the rise of Black Twitter itself has been a notable phenomenon within media, digital media, countering stories of the digital divide that permeated the early 2000s. By the 2010s, Twitter was a technology of political mobilization, intellectual and social discourse, and pop cultural performance by Black users. Black people today not only make up a larger group percentage on Twitter than whites, some 26 to 24%. Black users also utilize the platform. It is estimated at higher rates for a variety of purposes. Black Twitter lingo, in fact, memes and culture have become ubiquitous in the larger society, from terms like woke to hashtags like say her name. The phenomenon itself of Negro solstice, however, has to be situated within the dynamism of Black Twitter's collective self-identity and the more sobering context of 2020, for all its humor. This was the pandemic year, one that hit Black communities especially hard. In the United States, the CDC reported African Americans as 3 times as likely as whites to be hospitalized from COVID and twice as likely to die. 2020 was also the year of high-profile police murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, culminating in protests across the country, and a contentious election in which Black voters were quite literally being asked to save the nation from itself. Negro solstice in this context was as much a bit of catharsis as it was a defiant cry, similar to Alicia Wormsley's Blackboard. Black people had survived. We had survived 4 years of an administration based on white racial resentment. We had survived numerous acts of state-sponsored police violence and extrajudicial killings by white vigilantes, and we'd survived a global pandemic. At least most of us had. Against all these odds, Black people were going to enter the future. And we were not only there surviving and existing, according to Negro solstice, we were going to thrive complete with superpowers. So in conclusion, I see my time is wrapping up. I'm hoping this presentation opens up the space for us to think more acutely of not only the context of Black people in the future, but about how marginalized people in general may imagine their future using various media forms, either similar or different to the larger predominant society. Just because in this case, Black people have often been excluded from visions of the future doesn't mean they have not also used various forms of media to envision themselves beyond this temporal space, existing for better or for worse. In her response to those discomforted by her Blackboard, artist Alicia Wormsley opened up space for dialogue, but she was also unequivocal in her stance. However you might feel, whatever you might think, she wrote detractors, and this is in all caps, she wrote this, there are Black people in the future. And so that's where I will end. Let me stop sharing here, and thank you.